Hello, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. It is the 8th of November 2018 in the UK, the so-called UK. And yesterday I put out on the podcast Donald Trump's after midterm speech. I think that speech will be looked at a lot in the future because I think it was interesting to see the breakdown between government and media and the fractions between the two of them as they squabble against each other. And you can look at it either way, isn't it? It depends who your loyalties are with. You can see it as Trump being aggressive, or you can see it as the journalists pushing Trump a bit. But given the things that he says, I can understand why journalists would want to get their questions across. But of course, a good politician, George W. Bush, I'm sure he got the same kind of vitriol as well after the war by certain journalists who knew the truth of the matter. But the fact is, as a politician, you usually know how to lie and how to block questions by just, being statesmanlike and just not answering it or just moving along. But with Donald Trump, he's a little bit, I would say, for all his faults, the one thing he isn't is he's a bit too truthful, isn't it? He will actually speak and answer things, and that's usually what gets him into trouble. He is a bit more real than politicians. He doesn't know how to speak in the diplomatic way of sort of not answering a question or deflecting it or just standing defiant and not answering the question. You know what I mean. You've seen many politicians be heckled and they don't even notice it. It flies over their head, and they just move on to the next question. So yeah, for all his faults, at least he does come across as, even if he is a bit of an idiot, he does come across at least as a bit more real than these politicians. So that should be remembered as well. I think it was interesting, that he was calling out fake news and hoax news, and I know he coined that term when it came to the media. But I think it's an important thing that people maybe start to question things now. Now that the most important person on the planet, as it were, is calling out the media, saying that the media can lie. I mean, if he's saying that, then what other things are they lying about? Of course, because he's a bit of a buffoon, people can just sort of say, "Oh, well, that's just Donald Trump being conspirator." Is that right? Is that the? Also, it was interesting how when anyone with a foreign accent, there was 3 occasions. I think I only got 2 on the recording. One was maybe not 100% clear, but he struggled to hear any of their words, and I thought that was very embarrassing. I mean, it did seem very racist, that. Although he didn't like being called a white nationalist, wasn't it? That's very racist. But how he reaffirms the word invasion as well. It's interesting that that's the thing that I think came across. He is a bit like a media outlet. He speaks like the media, and maybe that's why they have a clash. People say that when people have the two in common, that they clash. That's what he's like. He's not like a politician. He's like a newspaper or a journalist. The way that he sensationalizes things, when he uses the word invasion for a caravan of people that are moving across, it's not an invasion. You can't use that word in that way. But he's redefining words like the media when they use shock jock tactics. The same, that the story that everyone's going with is obviously going to be when he called that journalist rude. I mean, sometimes Donald Trump, he doesn't do himself any favours by the verbiage he uses, but because a real politician wouldn't speak like that. They may believe that, but they wouldn't say it out in the open. They would code it in a way, and they would say it in a more diplomatic way, basically lying. So anyway, yeah, very interesting. There was a lot in it, but it's also interesting how he sort of made out his tax No one would understand his tax things and all that kind of stuff. And just you could see the duplicity within the, with politicians hiding their records and, trying to wait it out until he's out of office and then he can release it and then no one will care because, well, what can they do then? But I think looking at that, it just showed you the lies from the media, the lies from the government, and I think it just put it on display in a very easy way that everyone actually could see it, rather than journalists and government officials being clever in the way they speak. I don't think we're going to be seeing Donald Trump doing more of those. It would be Sarah Huckabee that comes out and deflects them in a political way. And the other story that is breaking this very moment, I'm sure I'll come back to this, is what the media are reporting as a mass shooting in California. And I've been writing notes because there's not much on Sky News, and I'm not sure why they don't have the other footage that I'm getting off ABC News Live. Luckily I can watch that stream. And it's interesting because obviously I've now I look at things through a different eye. I'm very sceptical about things. I don't just believe it just because I see it on the TV, and a lot of people will question that, like, how can you question something you're seeing live? It's definitely happening, but the problem is if you were in the middle of a movie scene, you wouldn't know that you were in the middle of a movie scene. And you've got to remember, the media are getting only small amounts. You don't see the event, you see the after effects of an event. And, so, I'm putting a disclaimer out there that this is just what I'm witnessing. And, this event, I've always said that with these terrorist events that I believe it would be easier for them, because some people think that they're staged, some people think they use crisis actors, Ollie Demigard and Jim Fetzer and people like that, and maybe there's no one actually dead, or there's some dead, or different things. I always think that it'd be easier if a government wanted these things to happen. They're listening to people all the time. They always know, you always hear the people say that, oh, this person was known. So if they have eyes and ears on all these people, they can just allow events to take place and just guide them, or just make sure they have their people to speak at the time. But the problem is I've seen some of these witnesses speak, and some of them look, you think, oh, that's an actor. But then again, I don't know. Are they an actor, or is it just they're a human being, and this is just how they're displaying the way they are? Some people do. Like I've seen, there was two girls, where they look like they're about to laugh, but then some people do that when they're nervous. So it's difficult for me to sort of say, I can't read minds. I can't see people's hearts and intentions. And for me just to say, oh, it looks like this, maybe that's not very... Well, anyway, this is just my view, isn't it? I'm not saying that these are definite cases, but when they started it, and they were starting, it was about 9 a.m, what time would that have been in the US time? I think that would be 1 a.m. Their time. And they were saying that there were 6 injured. They never said about dead, they just said injured. And the first witness I heard, he said he had smoke bombs, they were breaking windows with chairs. He saw a security guard get shot down, and then he described the was it assailant, or what was the word I'm trying to... The person, the attacker. He described him as having a beard, and he described him, was it wearing a hat? He was Middle Eastern looking, and prescription glasses. Now, the interesting thing about this witness is the prescription glasses. I thought, how would you know if he was wearing prescription glasses, or maybe he got round the side and he saw it was, it just seemed a bit of a weird word to put in front. Just normally people just say glasses, so I don't really know why. And then a lot of people were saying that they thought it was a joke. Well, I thought that was a really strange thing for a lot of the witnesses to be saying that they thought it was a joke. A man coming in, he shot the security guard on before he got in and threw smoke bombs almost instantly. So I don't know why people would think that was a joke. So it's a bit strange that they all seem to be saying that. It's almost like on the same hymn sheet. Then other people were saying that he was wearing a black ski mask, and he was dressed in all black. Then by 9:47, 11 had been injured, still not showing any dead. But the gunman was still not out. There was no gunshots, no threat, according to the sheriff's office. But it seemed to, it was like, where is this person? Still to this at this current time, he hasn't come out. They haven't. They said they claim now he's dead. But they haven't sort of. It's taken a very long time. Like, what was going on all those, almost like half an hour to an hour, where he must have been dead, where nothing's been taking place, unless it was a hostage situation, but we'll soon find out. There's lots of people running out without shirts on. I'm not sure if that's normal attire for this. It was meant to be a young country dancing. Usually people wear shirts, don't they? I don't know if it's very hot, or if they had to take them off to bandage people around, but almost as if it's like, like in Hollywood movies where you have a bandage on the head, it just seemed a bit like that. Why are they all taking their shirts off? A bit like how, there'll always be a shoe, people running out without shoes on. I don't quite understand why. But maybe they were being used to like tourniquets or something. And then there was the second shooter. They always have a witness saying the second shooter, but the sheriff said there was nothing, that they didn't know anything about that. They did bring out a sheriff and a fireman. I don't know why the fire brigade were at a terrorist, so-called, a shooting. Let's say shooting. That's not terrorism yet, because that hasn't been said. But they didn't seem to know very much at all, and they were asked about the injured, and they didn't know any details about the injured. Was any of them dead? And they didn't know anything about that, didn't know their conditions. I'm not sure why he was sent out to talk to the media, because he didn't seem to know anything. The only thing he could confirm, that one of the policemen, he knew about the policeman who was injured, and he was taken away in an ambulance. Then it changed to, so it's 9:51, 11 shot in hospital, no dead. Well, they didn't say they're no dead. Then, so at 10 a.m. UK time and 2 a.m. in the US time, Sky News was saying the gunman was still alive, and ABC News was saying the gunman is believed to be dead. So it's interesting how, depending on your news outlet, depending on the time, they would just say things without really having any confirmation. Sky News were waiting for confirmation from the sheriff, but ABC News were willing to take a witness. So that's what I mean. I don't know. That's probably why when you go through it, like by the end of this story tomorrow, it'll be a completely different story that you'll be hearing. So I don't know if that's because the story changes or just because the media is so intent on trying to get things out straight away, they don't even confirm things. So then there was a journalist, and they were talking to him on ABC News Live, one of their anchors who was there, not anchors, it would have been whoever journalist there. He was saying that the people were telling him when they asked about the gunman that he was white or Middle Eastern. I mean, white or Middle Eastern, you can't have, either, maybe that's why witnesses, how is that possible? One person says he's white, one person says Middle Eastern, or unless there was more than one gunman. One said he had a beard, one said he had a mask. If he had a mask, how do you know he had a beard? But definitely young, that's what they're definitely saying. And at 10:17, the sheriffs confirmed that the gunman was dead, and there were two girls at the end that I was listening to that just seemed like they were almost trying not to laugh. And I saw this with a guy as well, that I could see that, and he seemed, like as if you didn't know he was a real witness, you'd think he was a really bad actor. The way he was trying to cry, and I don't know. But then people react differently to these situations, so maybe I'm being a bit harsh or being a bit... Anyway, she was in the Palestinian army, but she didn't seem to know what the gun was, but she knew it was a semi-automatic. Which you would have thought someone in the army would have known what a gun was, but maybe she didn't see it. There was lots of hearsay where people were being interviewed, and when they were being interviewed, they were saying, "Oh, my friend," or this, that, and the other. I don't know why they don't check first before they're going to interview people. A second-hand account, when you've got loads of first-hand account people there, it just seems a bit sloppy. But yeah, I'll keep you updated as it carries on. All right, take care, take it easy. God bless and peace.